600 years, we have René Descartes, very famous philosopher and kind of Renaissance man. He also dabbled in neuroscience. He wrote of a part of the brain called the pineal gland, which actually just produces a subset of hormones. But he was extremely fascinated by the pineal gland because it was like a small subset that he could actually distinguish from the rest of the fucking gray jelly that is the brain. And because of this, he really hyped up its importance and suggested that that's the locus of control, or basically where your entire... Yeah. He's like, guys, I got it! He suggested that's where the soul is of the human being, so that's where the conscience and all intelligent thought comes from, and the rest is just like extraneous. Yes. The pineal gland is where the soul is, literally. He was very, very hyped by that. Easily disproven. Let's see, I think 20 years later in 1664, a Nordic scientist was able to discover acetylcholine, or he didn't name acetylcholine, but he was able to see how it functions. That's the neurotransmitter that controls muscle function. So the way he found it was by pouring salt on frog legs. And despite being, it's not attached to the animal and the animal's dead, just pouring salt on it will activate any remaining acetylcholine, and it'll make the frog legs jump and activate, so the muscles twitch and move around. And he's stimulating the nerve. Pretty cool. Yeah. I can keep going on and on. There's a lot of pretty cool stuff that I went over. Let's see, the development of understanding schizophrenia. Before, it was just associated with like demonic possession and usually religious perturbance. Eventually, it came to be recognized as dementia precox, and it was seen as like a syndrome. And then eventually that evolved into schizophrenia in the 1910s. And it's now seen as like a cocktail disorder that takes all of the really shitty mental illnesses and fucking wombo combos them into one fantastic package.
Don't you hate it when there's ghosts in your blood?
Yeah, ain't fun, man. And then I went over a lot of stuff with Freud. For some context here, when I tell you this guy was smart, like I ain't joshing, dude. He was the first. I guess he was also a neuroscientist. He's recognized mostly as a psychiatrist. He was the first scientist that decided that we should try and compare. So the brain's composed of gray matter and white matter. If you didn't know, I'm sure you do. But this was the first asshole that's like, hey, maybe these work differently. We should compare these. And he was able to notice some significant functional performance outputs and how different kinds of brain matter work, which is pretty cool.
Wow, unbelievable. What an asshole.
Yeah. He predicted that neurons were the unit of the brain 7 years before that Spaniard would do it. But the Spaniard guy was the guy who actually proved it, so he gets, he deserves the credit, obviously. But Freud did call it.